In the last video, we were taking a look at the startup.cs files, and we have one last thing remaining in this file. So if you scroll down, you see we have use static files. So use static files, you have to add this when you want to add static files like CSS or any HTML files. So this is the pipeline middleware which you have to add. So MVC will understand all the static files. And other than that, you see MVC routing here. Routing in ASP.NET Core is similar to that in ASP.NET MVC if you have worked before with that. Now in order to understand this, let me switch to presentation. So here is just a basic flow diagram for routing, and ASP.NET routing is a pattern matching system which enables you to match the incoming requests to a particular MVC actions defined within the controller. When ASP.NET Routing Engine receives a request at runtime, it finds a match for that request URL against the URL pattern defined in a route table. If any match is found, then it forwards that request to the controller. Otherwise, it will return a 404 error message for not found. When we create a new ASP.NET Core MVC application, routes are already added to the project. So if we switch back to the code, we see that the default route has already been added inside this app.useMVC and the routes here. If you want, you can add additional routes here by routes.mapRoute method. Let's take a look at few of the routing examples to understand how the routing works. So if I go back, so here as you can see, URL pattern is considered only after domain name part of the URL. So if your URL is something like localhost/book/index/2, book will be the controller, index will be the action, and 2 will be ID. So the first thing is controller, the second is action, and the last one is ID. So let's understand this more with few examples. So if you see, I have few examples here, and I have defined what is the controller, what is action, and what is an ID. So if the URL is localhost/home, by default it will take home as controller, and since there is no action or ID, it will take index as the default action, and ID will be null by default. And if we have a URL of localhost/home/index/123, home controller will be the controller here, index will be the action, and 123 will be the ID. Let's take a look at another example, the last one here. It's localhost/book/edit/123. So the controller will be the book controller, action will be the edit action here, and 123 will be the ID. You can always make new routing based on your requirements if you want to customize them, but for our example, we'll be working just with the default one. Let's switch back to the application and see how the default routing looks like. So here you see the name is default here, and in the template you see by default the controller name will be home and action will be contact. Now I have changed this to contact. By default it was index here. So let's run this application and see what page loads by default. So if we run this application, perfect, we see the contact page here. Let's tweak this again, and let me change this to index now. I'll have to stop the application. I've changed this to index, which was there by default, and we'll run this. Perfect, we see the index page here, and contact and about are right here. So it loads index by default. If we go to contact, here's the contact, and here is the about page. So let's just try one more thing, and let's change this to about. And this time it should load the about page for us by default. And there we go, we see the about page loaded by default. So this was just a brief overview on the routes here, and you can always play around with the routes based on your requirement, but we will leave this to what was there by default as home controller and index for now. So let me save this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.